and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody back. For our first meeting, it should be pretty easy to go through. I do have another magic trick for tonight. Had to pull out just an old simple one because I didn't have much time.
And Russ, look who's sitting next to you.
Do you want to sit here?
No, I don't. Thank
Actually,
you.
we can take it. We'll take a volunteer so that you won't be on the spot on this one. Okay. All right. Could I have a volunteer? Alan? You look like you don't want to help out here. Just no ordinary piece of rope. All right, just get rid over to my right. Actually, it's my left because I guess we have a few audience over here, so I'll go into this. No, I'm not going to tie you up right now. No. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this piece of rope in half. So we're going to find the center of the piece of rope, which is right about in the middle. Would you agree? Yeah. That's good. All right. What I want you to do is take the scissors and I want you to cut the rope in half. All right. Yep. In half. No, we want it in half. I told you to cut it in half. You cut it all the way through. That's all right. We'll see if we can deal with anything. It's all right. Now we have two pieces of rope which are exactly the same length except for one is a little bit longer than the other. Why don't we trim the one now? Just trim the one. Right about this. That way we have two pieces of rope exactly the same. All right? Except for one is a little bit longer than the other. Why don't we just trim the one on that one? It's a little bit frustrating, but I think we'll get it right. If you could just trim the long one. There we go. Now we have two pieces of rope, exactly the same length, except, you know what, we should just stop right here, because if we keep going, we're going to end up with two pieces of rope which add up to nothing, if that makes any sense. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can put it back into one piece of rope. All right, so on the count of three, I'm going to have you blow on the knot, causing it to dissipate. Think you can do that? All right, on the count of three. 1, 2, nights ago, I was practicing this, and the person that blew the knot blew so hot, I don't even want to tell you what happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the knot just a little bit closer, all right? So that way you won't have to blow so hot. In fact, let's just take it. Thank you very much. There you go, you can keep that for a second.
Alan, I'm just glad that was you this time and not me.
All right. Now I guess we'll get down to business. What do we have? A motion to approve the minutes of June 21st as presented or amended. Can we do that? Is everybody, enough people here that were there?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. West, second by Mrs. Killian.
We'll just go back and forth.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A motion to approve the executive session from June 21st as presented or amended. Jim, second by Ellen.
Yep.
My turn.
And then we have communication from the MSC Mass 46th Annual Joint Conference, November 9th to the 12th, which is a conference to, what are they covering this year, Peter, do you know?
We don't have the full, I'll bring to you at the next meeting in terms of the delegation and the items they'll be voting on. I don't have that, that's not published at this point.
Okay. We usually send someone down. I think Jim has gone for the last, how many years now?
Couple years, yeah.
Do you think
Because
you're
nobody
still...
else wants to.
No, that's not true. Just you wanted to go, so we let you go.
See, as I told Peter Russ earlier, that I'm trying to kind of let somebody else do it,
Yep.
let somebody else have a turn, but things keep on coming back to me. So,
All right,
I mean,
so hopefully you'll be able to...
I can do that. If somebody else wants any of it, Jeanette.
I'm not available on the weekend.
You know,
Okay.
yeah.
So you'll be able to do it. All right.
Thank you.
So you'll let Teresa know for sure.
We can register you, we'll check the dates to make sure that, and the times, to make sure that we
Okay.
work with you. Thank you.
Sure.
So should we appoint Jim as the voting delegate?
Could do that?
Okay, so motion to appoint Jim West as the voting delegate for the 2011 MASC Joint Conference. Motion by Ellen, second by myself. All those in favor? Aye, aye. We have a letter, as you know, that Tom was thinking that he would be deployed, and he was deployed, right? Is he not?
Yes,
He's not
he
home
is.
now.
He's overseas.
So Peter asked him to prepare a letter just stating, you know, what would be going on, how long he would be gone, and so forth. So he sent a letter dated August 9th to myself. It says, "Dear Mr. Fitzgerald, I'm officially informing the school board administration in the town of Abington of my military requirement to deploy to a military theater of operation with the United States Army. I'll be deployed for a period no greater than 1 year. I intend on remaining engaged with the committee and the school district. The technology that is available today, internet, email, and telephone, will allow me the opportunity to adequately interact and communicate with the school district. I truly believe that I can still provide direction and insight to the administration. I'm currently in the second year of my 3-year term and would like to remain on the committee and serve out my commitment ending 2013. I will, however, not be able to attend the monthly school committee meetings during the period of my deployment. I'm requesting that this letter be read at the next school committee meeting to inform the Abington public of the reasoning of my absences at the upcoming meetings. I additionally ask the public to feel free to contact me with their concerns and comments. I will still be able to obtain my email inquiries, so please do not hesitate to contact me on thomasmcnulty@abingtonps.org. I remain dedicated to getting our district moving forward in the right direction. Sincerely, Tom McNulty."
I can add that already, since Tom's deployment, we've emailed back and forth a number of times. Questions, information, some things with regard to a subcommittee that he's on with Mr. West around negotiations. And it's been productive, although he's been overseas.
Right. Yeah, so we had talked about it and thought, you know, that he still can have the input that he would have had anyway. So, you know, he's aware of what's going on. He can at least have input, although may not be able to vote at a meeting, but we'll still be able to get the input that he has. Unless somebody has any reason for not letting him miss the school committee meetings, because I believe in the bylaws, if he missed more than, what is it, 2 or 3 or something?
They're in the town charter there, it does describe absences if a board decides to address those absences of a member, but that's nothing that you have to do.
Right.
That's you know, whatever the board decides to do in terms of exercising whatever you'd like to exercise.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody has any input on that or anything to say about it, or. So, you know, obviously it's something that he can't get out of, you know, serving the country. So we'll, you know, we'll stay in touch with him and get any input that he has.
I appreciate that, unless people have grave concerns about it or the public has a concern about it. As school systems, we've been directed to help provide whatever support we can to service people's families while they're deployed overseas, because it is a hardship on families, and so I think it's good to extend to people.
Right.
You know, his absences are as a result of a deployment, not a neglect of duty.
Right.
So.
All right. I don't think we really have any motions, motions that may be offered at the meeting, but I don't believe that we have anything that we need to do or vote for that. The next is a communication from George O'Neill, the chairman of the Holbrook Permanent School Building Committee. It seems as though that they're still, you know, pursuing us to talk about the possibility of regionalization. although we already did we did a study with Holbrook. We had formed a committee and we did a study, and that committee really came to the conclusion that it wouldn't make sense for Abington to regionalize. But they've sent us a letter, and the purpose is to discuss possible collaboration and to talk about it with the school committee chairman, the selectman chairman, the superintendent of schools, and the town administrator. They had actually set a meeting, which I, after talking to Peter and reading the letter, realized that we wouldn't be able to commit to the meeting before this meeting. It's September 1st is when they wanted to meet. So I had asked Peter to call over there and talk to them to see if we could either set a different time for a meeting, and just the fact that we would need more time to get all of those people together if we were to meet.
Mr. O'Neill returned my call to him tonight, just before this meeting, and there's no action required of the committee tonight. We could meet with their committee and just discuss what, if any, actions could be recommended down the road in terms of, is there more that people want to study, or have we studied enough? And what directions we could go in with regard to collaborating on this. They have been asked, although they've already asked us, we've already completed a study, they've been asked by the Massachusetts School Building Authority to reach out to Abington, Avon, and Braintree to talk about the possibility of collaborating on regionalization. So they're fulfilling an obligation that they have with MSBA. And where that discussion goes, we'll have to see. It's a process that we want to.
Right.
Yeah. Peter, has anything changed since we met last year versus this year that you can tell?
No.
From, the study that we did?
No, included in your packet is the study that we conducted. We brought it to the committee at the close of last year. It's a summary of our findings. We had 7 meetings, and then multiple working sessions. It'll provide good information and maybe a place to start a discussion if you just want to meet.
Right.
To have a discussion with their representatives when we can coordinate the meeting.
Yeah. My feeling on it was that it seems like they're just going through the motions for the state, but that, if that were the case, I don't want to just make that conclusion on my own, and I'd hate to just brush them off if they're asking for a formal meeting. So my feeling that I said to Peter was that I don't mind meeting with them to see if there's anything new that they have to talk about. When reading through the report, you can plainly see why it wouldn't make sense for Abington. Health insurance benefits are so lopsided, and we're trying to change that now within the town. They're paying 90% of their employees. We're at a 75-25 split and trying to change that. I mean, there's just so many factors that just don't seem to make sense. They're a much smaller town than Abington is student-wise. So I just don't see the benefit to Abington to regionalize with Holbrook. It doesn't mean that Abington shouldn't regionalize, or maybe that could be a possibility, but rather than ignore them, I thought that I would at least attend the meeting. And if the town selectman and town administrator felt the same way, that they would like to meet with their administrator and their board of selectmen, then I wouldn't be the one to say no. So that's how I left it. If they, obviously, I'd like them to change the date so that we have time to pull all those people together, so that we can have a meeting that does make sense if we are going to meet. So again, I don't think there's any motions or anything that we need to do. Do you think that we should make a motion as a board that?
To direct me to set up a meeting?
Yeah.
I have set up a meeting.
I don't believe that we really have to make a motion or anything on that, so. I don't know if there's any other input or anything that the other board members want to say as far as that you think it might be a waste of time to meet with them or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to keep communication open, and my thoughts in reading this was exactly what the conclusion of what you came to was that, you know, the state was looking for someone telling them, okay, you've got to regionalize, so, you know, put out your letters and meet with, you know, surrounding towns and stuff
Right.
like that. But,
So anyway, so that.
but it would be good to set up at least one meeting.
At least a
maybe two
meeting, yeah.
meetings,
Yep.
to see, see what's going on.
Okay. The next, we're on report of the superintendent of schools. Peter?
I have an FY 2012 budget update for you. Over the summer, I talked to, at the close of the summer, I talked to school committee meetings about the following circumstances that occurred, and they're fortunate circumstances. I'm going to read a memo to you from Felicia to me. The Operational Services Division announced a price increase for private special education placements at 1.69% over FY11. Please see the included email. This email was sent, we first received word of this on August 10th from our professional organization, the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, which means that we didn't know that the price would be set for out-of-district placements for some of our placements at 1.69%, and the prevailing wisdom is to set those rates higher depending on the placement, and so in the end we ended up saving money. So in the school department's final, as I continue on this memo, in the school department's final recommended budget, the increase we included for these placements was 5%. So that saved us projected $31,884. We also had the resignation of an elementary teacher and the hiring of a new elementary teacher at a lower step and lane, which saved us $4,625. And the benefit of a special education cost share agreement that saved us $24,805. This results in a net savings of $61,314. Now, when you've got a school system where you've got large numbers of students in classrooms and you want to provide program for kids, you don't want to not use that money before the opening of school. So we talked about the benefit that this would provide, and we were able to bring in an additional third grade teacher that we didn't anticipate bringing in, and we also had to add back 1/5 or a fraction of one of our music people. We had to bring them back, because as you add sections and groupings of children in classrooms, you also have to add back those other classes that those students take. So in terms of PE, health, art, we were able to work those things into the schedule, but we had to add another 1/5 music back to make the schedule work for those students so that we could offer them the program offering that we want to offer our students in grade 3. And that nets out $58,528. So what I'd be asking tonight would be for your official approval of the restoration of those positions to the FY 2012 school department budget.
So a motion to propose, a motion to approve the proposed restorations to the FY 2012 school department budget as presented. Moved by Ellen, second by Jim.
Yep.
Jim?
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is, if I may add, with the budget cuts that happened way back in 2003 and the budget cuts that happened a couple of years ago, it's really nice to see things being put back.
And I want to highlight to people that that's why I bring that memo, that actual email, a printed copy of it, that we received this on August 10th. Because, you know, there are people in the community that'll say, well, you know, they find the money. Well, here, we didn't know till August 10th. We had no way of knowing that the Operational Services Division in Massachusetts would set that rate at that place and time, and that would be the rate. And so, again, it's a step in the right direction, especially with the number of registrations that we've had at the elementary level over the past couple of weeks. We have large numbers of people that we didn't expect that are coming back to the Abington Public Schools, which is good news. But as we do that, we need to add staff to accommodate them.
Is that all through the grades? Or
All
is it-
through the system.
Good,
So,
good.
under Personnel Administration, I've accepted the resignation of Carrie Flaherty as an instructional paraprofessional. I've accepted the resignation of Mr. Jonathan Markowski as a mathematics teacher. I've accepted the resignation of Tracy Murphy as a recess lunch paraprofessional. I've approved the appointment of professional and support staff for the 2011-2012 school year. You have an enclosed list of those appointments. I've approved the appointment of advisors for the 2011-2012 school year. I also have enclosed a complete list of those advisorships. I've approved the appointment of coaches for the 2011-2012 school year. You'll see the enclosed list. Anything you see on the lists that isn't filled, it means it will be filled. It's just not filled yet. The appointment of the following volunteer coaches for the 2011 fall season: Mr. Donald Hill for golf, Michael Bruning for freshman football, Matthew McLean for freshman football, Ron Dunn for JV varsity football, Robert Poulin for JV varsity football. I've also approved the following recommendations from the principals for teachers with professional teacher status beginning with the 2011-2012 school year: Sarah Bullman, Abington High School; Nancy Clancy at the Center School; Kathleen O'Brien at Abington High School; and Peter Serino at Abington High School. Under other matters, as Jim had mentioned, it's nice after a tough time that we're making momentum and moving in the right direction. I can't tell you how wonderful it's been to open an elementary school rather than close an elementary school in terms of getting the center school back open and running. I'll talk about that a little bit more in my back to school report. But one of the people we wanted to introduce to you tonight is the principal of the center school. I'm going to ask in a moment Dr. Nicole Rich to introduce herself at the podium, but before I do, I should tell you, Dr. Rich comes to us with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education from Bridgewater State College, a master's in special education from Bridgewater State College. She has her certificate of advanced graduate studies in educational leadership from Bridgewater State College, and she has her PhD in curriculum and instruction from Capella University. Nicole. Yeah. Welcome to Abington.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm very excited about the opportunity over at Center. The enthusiasm and energy is wonderful over there. I think it's more than what I had anticipated between the parents and the staff. The staff is so cohesive and collaborative, and this is already within the first week that I've seen such tremendous opportunity there with them. I really feel like this staff and just having our own school for preschool and kindergarten will create some really great learning experiences for the children. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm really happy to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Not to put you on the spot, I promise these will be easy questions. Since you've been here, we've registered approximately how many students to the center school?
209 as of today.
209 as of today, and the kindergartens that we've added, tuition-based
Yes.
kindergarten for a full-day experience that we weren't going to have last year.
Right. 2 classrooms.
Two
and
classrooms.
we have 20 children registered in both classrooms, and our maximum for the rooms is 25.
So
And we have parents coming in. It seems that it's hour by hour inquiring about not just kindergarten but preschool as well. So, and we only have 2 preschool classrooms right now available. So we've had high interest, which is great.
one of the things that occurred last year is we didn't know for certain that we were opening the center school until we went to town meeting and we knew we had the funding for it. That was after many parents, most parents, have already enrolled their children in a program, a private kindergarten, because they want the full-day kindergarten experience. And so even though we missed the mark in terms of registration because we had no choice. We had to wait for the town meeting. We still have people enrolling on a regular basis. And I think it's easy to predict that we'll very quickly be at capacity in the program,
Absolutely.
you know, maybe going into next year. As people,
Without
now
a
that
doubt.
people know it's up and running. So
Yes.
it's a wonderful opportunity for Abington parents that they didn't have before we opened the center school. And it's exciting to have Nicole there because of her impressive background, because this is when we bring our students into the public school system. It's one of the most critical times, because if we can't excite them and challenge them in the types of environments that we want to create, then we've got makeup work that we don't need or we don't want that can be detrimental to them, and also the children with special needs that enter the system at that age level, because as Dr. Thomas will tell you, we're responsible for them from age 3. And so Nicole will be working very hard with her staff to work with those students with special needs to provide them the types of experiences we want them to have.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I met Nicole at the new teacher and orientation breakfast that we had, and I had welcomed all of you to the small town of Abington, and wished you luck, because we are a small town, and Facebook has nothing on Abington. They had social networking way back before Facebook came around. So good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item I have for you is, with the threat of Triple E and the Eastern Equine Encephalitis and West Nile in the mosquito populations in surrounding communities, not communities that are adjacent to Abington. These are communities that are, I believe the nearest pools of mosquitoes were Bridgewater and Middleborough. We decided that we'd be proactive, and Plymouth County Mosquito Control will be spraying the fields on September 1st in all school grounds between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. So a voice message went out on the school's phone system, and the MSDS sheets in terms of the chemicals or pesticides that are being used are posted on our website. The fields will be ready for use that day, because what's used is something that breaks down in the sunlight the moment, as soon as the sun comes up. And again, with the threat of Triple E and West Nile, we just want to be as proactive as possible, and we'll keep people posted as soon as Plymouth County Mosquito Control or the Board of Health tell us we have more to be concerned about. I do talk to the Board of Health, Sharon White at the Board of Health, who's been very helpful. I think I've talked to her probably every couple of days or so, or about at least every week, about the mosquitoes, just checking in on the plan that we have in place. So. The next item I have on the agenda is, if you remember, we received a grant called the Safe Routes to School grant for the center school. When the center school was closed, we lost that grant. It's a grant that improves the streets, sidewalks, curbs, and the signage around the center school, making the school easier for people to walk to the schoolhouse. It would certainly improve the life of that neighborhood and the condition of the streets surrounding that school. So this is our effort, and I have enclosed a letter that I've written to the Secretary of Transportation, and they've responded that they will consider putting the program back in place for Abington and the areas around the center school. I got a phone call last week from their office telling me that we're back on their list to be considered. They didn't tell me that they'd be doing any work, but we're up for reconsideration. And so we just didn't want to miss an opportunity, so we sent this letter and communicated with, copied it to the people you see here enclosed.
Peter, what's the time frame? If they approve something, I'm sure construction wouldn't be until probably when the kids got out next summer. But is there a time frame where you might know where we stand?
That's a good question. They didn't give me a time frame. They didn't tell me when they'd be making a decision, or if they did make a decision and it was favorable, when construction or the remediations would take place. What I do know is that they did follow up with me. They did call me back and tell me that we were on the list for reconsideration, and what I can do is continue to follow up with them if I don't hear from them in the coming months.
Good.
The back-to-school report. The last couple of years have been challenging because we laid some people off and we closed some schools. This year was going to be a challenge because we opened a school, and that means moving students, moving teachers, moving transportation, and a shift in schedules. On top of that, and I know everybody knows this, and there are people that don't have power yet that won't see this, but we had a hurricane. The week before we had an earthquake, and then this week we had a hurricane. And it created some challenges, but I need to tell you that the police department, the highway department, here at the town manager's office with John D'Agostino, the Park and Rec, our maintenance, our custodial, even our teachers. I mean, we had an opening day just after the storm, and when nobody had power, and yet all of our teachers and paraprofessionals and administrators were at Abington High School, probably having had taken a cold shower and hoping the power would come back on, and they were there for a full day of work, and just the level of coordination and cooperation. I'll give you some examples. When we talked about opening school today, I was on the phone with the police chief and the fire chief, talking about the different power issues in town, and there were some signals in town that were down. One of the major concerns was, as students come to the high school, the traffic light at the end of Glenwood's Way was down. The chief of police and the police department stepped up and promised us that if the power didn't come on to that intersection, that they'd have an officer there directing traffic, making it safe. As I drove around town just after the storm, if everybody remembers, people didn't have power, and it was an 80-degree, sunny, beautiful day, and all the children in Abington were out at the parks and out on the streets, out with the fallen tree limbs and the down power wires. And so the thinking being, not everyone may have power when we open school, and that means that it'll create an extra challenge for families, but all the school buildings had power. And the safest place, whether you have power or not, statistically for children in America, is in our schoolhouses. Regardless of all the information you've heard about violence in schools and bullying, statistically, schoolhouses are still the safest place for kids. And so, although it was probably a challenging decision for some people, and I heard about people complain that we were going to have school even though not everybody had power, it was the right decision to make because it's the safest place for kids. We had power in our buildings. Those are safe. They were up and running. We were ready to go. Families are certainly ready. I know in my house I'm ready to send my kids back to school, and I don't have power. I still don't have power. That fits to the posted schedules and the lives that people had set for their families in terms of their children's return to school. And so if you're ready to begin your mission in a new school year, and you don't have any major things blocking your way, we've got such wonderful cooperation keeping kids safe, we started the school year. The challenges were really moreover around students that continue to register to come to school, and fitting their schedules and fitting in their transportation and late transportation requests, and that's a good problem to have. We want to have more of those problems with people that are registering for school. I can't underscore enough the wonderful cooperation, because as I drove around to get to work through these other towns, I know that other towns are in worse shape than we are. I talked to other superintendents in the South Shore, and I know that Pembroke is closed until next week, Duxbury's closed until next week, Whitman and Hanson is closed until next week. The storm conditions, I'm sure, were different from town to town. I don't say a bad thing about their cooperation and what goes on in their towns. I can just tell you, in this town, I had nothing but help from the other town departments, and we wouldn't have been able to open school without them. The other items I have for you in terms of reporting to you is, I want to thank, Felicia's going to do some discussion of some of the projects that took place in terms of the physical plants around the district later in our agenda, but our food service program, our secretaries, our administration, our technology department, our custodians, really everyone pulled together so that the people that need to complete our mission in our classrooms can do that with our students, because that's the most important thing we do. But without those other people behind the scenes, people wouldn't be able to do what they do for children. And so we're up and running, and the 11-12 school year is underway, and it was a good opening of schools regardless of the challenges. I'm excited also that as we open the school year, we're going to be doing strategic planning. In the coming weeks, in the second week of September, we've got about 30 people that have come together. Again, Mr. West from the school committee has agreed to serve on that committee. And we've got members of the community, teachers, we've got students, administration, coming together to work on our strategic plan for the Abington Public Schools, which will be the group that creates our vision, mission, our action plans, and our goals for the coming years, that will help us drive the decisions that we make in the Abington Public Schools. So to be able to open a school after a hurricane and be able to engage in strategic planning the way we are this year are wonderful ways to begin a school year. If I could, just in terms of our current configuration, I thought I should maybe spend a moment on that, because I get questions from the community about some of the moves we've made. What we've done is the Center Elementary School is a pre-K to K school. The Beaverbrook Elementary School, which was formerly the Early Childhood Center, and the name makes sense because there's a nice little beaver brook behind the school, is a grades 1 through 4 school. The Woodsdale Elementary School is 5 and 6, the Frollo is 7 and 8, and Abington High School is 9 through 12. The North School, which I get a lot of questions about in terms of being a schoolhouse, is used for office space. It's also used for maintenance space for the Abington Public Schools, and there's also 4 leased rooms, and then the parking area is leased to North River Collaborative that uses it as a base of operations for transportation. Now, the reason that these changes in configuration make sense is because by doing this, we've created space in the schools so that as we're able to add teachers back and reduce class sizes, we have the space to do that. We first saved teaching positions and kept teachers in classrooms by closing the center school, and now coming out of this tough time by reconfiguring, we're able to add teachers because we've made these moves. The center school, being pre-K to K, offers the full-day tuition program option to parents in Abington, which we haven't had the space to have before. The Beaverbrook Elementary School, being 1 to 4, moved a grade out of the Woodsdale School. That created space at the Woodsdale. We also created space at that Beaverbrook School by moving the maintenance area out of that school to the North School building. Anytime that you can create multiple purpose classroom space in a school building that's supported by a principal, a secretary, and a nurse, and a custodian, the support staff you need, you've saved money because you've consolidated your resources rather than creating redundant programs across town the way we were set up previously. The maintenance space at the North School, the maintenance staff doesn't need a principal, secretary, custodian, and a nurse. And so that space has been recovered at the Beaverbrook Elementary School for use with kids. And that's a good use of space at the North School building. We are going to talk a little later in the agenda about feasibility and other steps we want to make in terms of the capital plan and long-term plans. But this is a short-term plan that provides the best use of our infrastructure and our facility, consolidates resources so that we can maximize service for children. Questions?
No, I'm just going to add, you mentioned the North School obviously doesn't have a principal or janitor or what have you. So of course, that being open, those costs are not there. But the big thing that you and I talked about is the fact that you have it leased out covers the the cost, the utility cost of that building being open
Right.
and so forth. So we actually have a building that we're using kind of at no cost to the town because
Correct.
we have it leased.
Correct.
So that's a big factor, because obviously we closed it to save money. So people would ask, why did you reopen it in any configuration at all? But we reopened it because we were able to lease that space, which covers the maintenance cost and the utility cost of that building. So it's a key point
Great point.
of why that building can be utilized by the school system.
And the North River Collaborative uses it for a program with children. It also uses it with transportation offices. And so it's a good use of that space, and it certainly defrays our costs. It's a great point. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be asking for you to approve my appointment as a representative of the Board of Directors for Project Contemporary Competitiveness. That's the summer program, the PCC program. It was held previously at Bridgewater State College, and now it is at Stonehill College. This is their first, they just completed their first summer at Stonehill College.
So we need a motion to approve Peter G. Schaefer to serve as a member of the Board of Directors of the Project Contemporary Competitiveness for 2011-2012. Is that correct? That's the right year? 2011, 2012?
Yep, please.
A motion by
So
Mr.
moved.
West, second by Mrs. Killian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anything to be said?
Thank you. Dates to remember? We do. Friday, September 2nd, there is no school for grades 1 through 12. Monday, September 5th is Labor Day. All school offices and buildings will be closed. Tuesday, September 6th, kindergarten begins. Wednesday, September 7th is Meet the Coaches Night at Abington High School at 7 o'clock p.m. On Sunday, September 18th, we have the Jeffrey Coombs Memorial Road Race that's held at the Woodsdale School each year. School registration begins at 7:30, I'm sorry. Registration begins for the race at 7:30 a.m. and the race begins at 9 a.m. On Sunday, September 18th, we have the Music Parents Craft Fair at Abington High School from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And on Wednesday, September 22nd, we have an in-service early release day.
Reports of subcommittees, we don't have any, and report of Assistant Superintendent for Pupils Personnel Services.
Good evening, everyone. I am requesting approval of the home education of 16 students. We have 4 at the Beaver Brook School, 2 at the Woodsdale, 6 at the Frollo, and 4 at Abington High School.
It's an updated list.
It's different than what we have?
Yes,
We had 1 addition.
we had an addition since the agenda was
Oh,
put
okay.
together.
And again, just for those of you that are new, there's a whole process. They need to fill out all the paperwork and then receive approval from the school committee finalizing their homeschooling request.
Right. So we need a motion to approve the recommended home education programs for the 2011-2012 school year as recommended by Thomas. So moved by Mr. West, second by Mrs. Killian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anything to add or say?
Well, I'd like to say that, as Wayne would say, God bless him.
That's right. And then next is informational in terms of salaries, in terms of grants, and a lot of these are actually covered by salaries. So if you look through the form that has it broken down with our Title IIA, Teacher Quality, Title I, 94-142 for special education, our ed jobs, the 262 early education care for special ed, 632 academic support, 274 special program improvement. It comes to a total of $1,099,015 in terms of federal and state grants that we have available.
Are any of these new or are these pretty much repeated each year? Or?
Yeah, most of them are repeated. The ARA turned into the ed jobs So that's one, but the funding is relatively the same. And, you know, we had some cuts in some areas, but basically we've offset them in other areas where they cut in one, they made up in the other. So our total which is, you know, out of the federal and state, and a lot of it, again, is its special education funding, you know, so that you'll see in 2 of the grants. And then Title I, which again is another federal grant. So it adds up to a lot of money, which really covers the majority of our salaries.
What is
It
the
doesn't cover the
big
majority
one?
of our salaries, the majority of the grant covers salaries.
The grant covers, right. So like
It's used for salaries.
Correct.
The majority of the 1 million.
Right, exactly, the majority of the $1 million does that.
What is the biggest one there, the 500,000?
That's special education.
Okay,
So it's your,
and that's
right, and that's your reimbursement
the reimbursement, okay.
in many ways. It's not the circuit breaker reimbursement, but it's
It's a
the
separate-
funding that special education law has put towards each local town in terms of funding special education.
And is it something that you actually have to write a grant for? Or is it
Oh, yeah,
just
you have to
something that we-
stipulate where the money's being used for, in terms of staffing, and then you have to write a narrative for most of these grants. It's not just a budget piece, it's also in terms of the actual narrative of how you're using it.
Right. Very good.
And I have that available if you ever want to stop by and read it.
Okay.
The other grant that we have that isn't here is the Carroll Way PE grant, which is about $70,000 a year. It pays for a PE teacher and other professional development and things that are going on in our health and wellness classes. So
Right, and that's through the North River
that's
Collaborative.
the North River Collaborative.
Yep. Great, thank you. And then for also informational purposes, we have our professional development that's ongoing throughout this school year. As you're aware, we have 7 half-days, as well as 1 full day of professional development. This year, as Mr. Schaefer already stated, we have our strategic planning that will be taking place in September. We also have Skillful Teacher we have approximately 20 staff members who will be attending the Skillful Teacher through Research for Better Teaching course that'll take place throughout the school year. We also have in December our coordinated program review. On-site audit will be December 5th through the 9th. We've already done the online submission, as you've heard me speak to. In the spring, we will be conducting another one in the fall. And then they'll be coming to do more of an intensive on-site visit, which will happen during December 5th through the 9th. And you'll hear me continuing to talk about it. And it's in all areas, from all your civil rights to ELL, special education, general education, all programs that are offered within the Abington Public Schools. And it happens every 6 years.
Every 6 years?
And then you have a mid-cycle review that happens in between that and the 3rd year. And then in terms of, if you look at what we have going on throughout the year in terms of the buildings, we have a variety of technology focuses, as well as Common Core. The whole Massachusetts Common Core and the curriculum framework is going to be a big focus for us. In particular, at the preschool level, we'll be looking at the quality rating and improvement system, which is really coming out of the State Department in terms of accountability. And then you'll see, as you look through the list, is that technology is really going to be the push this year. So we have professional development, because all our schools are in different places. So we've tweaked it, and we've specified it per buildings. And then, of course, as you see at the high school, they'll be focusing on NEASC and their mission and their guiding principles. And then, as always, there's ongoing individual professional development, as well as specific department meeting professional development, as well as building level PD. So it's going to be a busy year, but an exciting year. So any questions on that?
None.
And then in there, you just have a letter that actually comes from the State Department, and that specifies that the coordinated program review will be held on those dates that I have already just specifically stated, and that's from Darlene Lynch, the Director of Program Quality Assurance Services, and then Priscilla McPhee, who's the Assistant Director of Program Quality Assurance Services. And that basically just tells you what will be audited during that time frame.
Okay.
And then the last one is information, as well as I want to send a congratulations to our teaching staff as well as our administrative team, because for the 2nd year in a row, Abington is on level 1, which means we met the requirements under the areas of the federal accountability requirements for special education. And that's basically based on graduation rates, dropout rates, and then performance on statewide assessments. So it's really important every year for us to stay in that place. So we're really excited. And as you read through the packet, there's a whole informational piece in terms of when you're not on level 1, if you do move into another level, then there are other stipulations that come into place for corrective action, and then assistance from the state in terms of, professional development and things of that sort. So we're fortunate that we do not need any technical assistance from the state because we are at a level 1 category. So that's exciting news. Any questions on that?
I don't think so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And next we have report of Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance, Alicia.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm going to start off by giving you a status report on our summer projects. And it was another very busy summer, but as others have spoken to tonight, the excitement was different in that our energies weren't spent closing schools and moving teachers because we were closing schools. Our energies were spent getting a school ready to open and moving people over into center school, and then with the grade configuration changes, moving teachers across town and across schools. So I just want to take a moment to thank some people that helped us have a very successful summer. Jason Lynn and the maintenance crew, Bob Bowie and the custodial staff, Aaron Heyer and the technology, Carol Carney and Ann Pecoraro on bus routes for the third summer in a row is all new bus routes with new grade configurations, and that has its own challenges. Mark Shirokis, along with his park and recreation crew, Ken and Canal in the highway department, and Teresa, Paulette, and Lynette in the superintendent's office. So thank you all for everything that you did this summer. A couple of the major projects that we had this summer was the opening of Center School, and that because of a donation, an anonymous donation that we received in the spring to help defray the costs of the one-time cost associated with opening the school, we're able to paint all the classrooms, the hallway, the gym and cafetorium. We were able to purchase a new playground climbing structure and new fencing, and there has been some comments that it's not there yet, and it isn't there yet. They are hoping to install beginning Thursday and said that they will have it ready for kids on Tuesday. So that's what I'm banking on. So there'll be.
I think the hurricane slowed them down. I think the hurricane slowed them down.
The hurricane absolutely slowed them down. They didn't want to have pieces partially installed and then run into those problems. So that's really exciting. The center school looks great. All the kids running around there yesterday in the open house was really exciting. So we also spent time moving and reconfiguring the maintenance department at the Beaver Brook, formerly ECC. There was updates done to the technology infrastructure. There was also computer labs reconfigured in schools that didn't have room for computer labs. For example, at the Woodsdale, there's a computer lab that's been set up at Beaver Brook, and a new computer lab at the high school. And the computer lab at Beaver Brook and at the Woodsdale were used with existing technology that we had, hardware and software, but new wiring, new configuration in rooms that weren't available previously. In addition, we did our third school with lighting upgrades through a grant with cost share with National Grid, 75-25. We're paying 25% of the cost of the upgrades to every single light inside and outside at the center school. So now we've completed lighting upgrades to the high school, to the Frollo, and to center school. And it's estimated that our cost will be recouped in less than 20 months of energy savings. So we're very excited about that. And I think that's it for summer projects, unless people have questions.
No, obviously a lot went on this year.
It was very busy. My second update is on the Woodsdale Elementary window project. Windows were not installed this summer, but as of last week, the shop drawings had been released for window fabrication to begin. So it's estimated that originally, our push had been we wanted windows on site first. We would do doors and curtain walls later, but our priority was windows, and everyone understands that. But the way the fabrication goes, windows take longer, and there's 143 window projects going on in the state of Massachusetts right now, so there's a backlog there. It has been estimated that we will get doors and curtain walls, which are the big entrances, the glass entrances at the front of the building and all the outside exterior doors, along with the cafeteria windows, that those will be on site first, and it's estimated they will be there the middle of October. As soon as any material arrives on site, we plan to begin installation. And, excuse me, I will talk more at a future school committee meeting around the plan of how we lay that out for everybody, exactly how that's going to happen. And then it's estimated that windows will arrive shortly thereafter, hopefully by the end of October, beginning of November. And again, as soon as those windows are there, the windows will take priority and those will be put in. We still have we're looking at a completion date in December, and that's what we're still aiming for and anticipating at this point.
Are we in any jeopardy time-wise?
We're not. The state has become much more lax on their December 31st
Deadline.
substantial completion. It just has been realized that there's no possible way that all these projects could be done in that small window. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we are absolutely pushing to have our
Right,
windows
to
completed
have
this
them done.
fall.
There's another good piece about the Woodsdale having 2 grades this year rather than 3. It'll help with the space and ease the construction.
Correct, and again, in future meetings, when we really talk about how it's going to lay out in terms of how the windows are going to be replaced, by only having 2 grades there are spaces that we could move a classroom out of for a day or two for them to complete a classroom, which may move the installation of the windows along faster because we won't have a class moving in. The class leaves
Right.
at 3 in the afternoon, and then we'll be back there at 8 o'clock the next morning. So there's other things that need to happen in order for that classroom to be ready for 8 o'clock. And if we don't have to do that, if we can take a classroom or 2 out and put them in a different spot in the building for a couple of days, we may be able to get the windows done more quickly.
Right.
And I should also say, and it's important to say that both the owner's project manager, or all three, the owner's project manager, the window contractor, and our architects all have experience doing construction in occupied buildings. So the things that I get very nervous about at meetings, we do this. This is what we do, this is how we do it, and they talk me through the process, and which I will do once I actually have the schedule.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Nope. We don't need to
Nope,
make
there's
any
no,
motions
there's
or
no
anything?
motions.
There's no
Nope.
release of monies or anything at this
Nope.
point, right? Other than to the architect, I guess, they've been,
Yep, we've been paying them
Yep.
regularly through the warrant. My last item is a proposed capital items for the Town of Abington capital plan. At the Board of Selectmen, through the Town Manager's Office, has asked for capital items for the school committee to submit to the town. I have for you 6 items to consider for the town's, to be included in the town's capital plan. So the town has a larger capital plan. These are the items that the school department, I'm proposing be added to the larger town capital plan. The first one being a feasibility study for the construction of a new school. And this is something that we've talked about in terms of our long-term planning needs, building needs for the school department. As we've talked about before, a feasibility study through the Mass School Building Authority is done. It's a arduous process that you really study the needs of your community, of your school buildings, your grade configurations, and come up at the end of the whole feasibility study. The reason it's estimated to cost between $650,000 and $850,000 is at the end you actually finish with a schematic design of a new building. So you end that process with a set of plans to build a building. And as we've talked about, there's different ideas of of where a new building should be, how it should be configured, and all of those things would come through in a feasibility study. The second one, the second recommended item is masonry repairs to the Frollo Middle School, North School, and Center School. At this point, all of our building envelopes are tight, but there is masonry work that needs to be done in each of those buildings. And the longer that you don't do it, the more chance there is that you will develop building envelope issues. And that's, the type of work that would be done is repointing different sections of those buildings. Same thing goes for roof repair and or replacement at Abington High School, Woodsdale Elementary, North and Center Schools. We do ongoing repairs to the current roofs. They're not at their usable lifespan, but they're approaching that. And again, these items are to be included in a town's, not just this year's capital plan, but a long-term capital plan. At the Frollo Middle School, we have what's called a Garaventa, which is, it is the piece of equipment that someone who is unable to walk up and down the stairs uses to go up and down the stairs. It's like a moving platform, and it moves up one of the stairwells. And that Garaventa has been there, Peter, 40, 30 years?
Those are all good guesses.
Yep, a long time. And we're to a point with the Garaventa that it gets inspected, it passes inspection, it can be used, but it's at a
Used
point.
safely. Can we use, it's being used safely.
Yes, used safely, but it's to a point that it's becoming more and more difficult to get parts to repair it. And we've kind of been put on warning by the elevator company that in the next couple of years, it will be impossible to get parts to repair it. And it's something that should in the next 2 or 3 years be replaced. At the center school, the replacement of the classroom univents, those are the kind of big radiator-looking items in each classroom that brings exterior air into the classroom. It moves outside air in. And again, those are approaching their usable life. We're not there yet, but it's something that we do need to be planning for in the near future. And the last one is the emergency generator and associated switchgear at the high school. We talked a little bit about this last year. It is the emergency generator is original to Abington High School. It works. We have it tested every year and repaired as necessary. But it's also, I think, especially after this weekend's hurricane, it's probably important to note that our generator backs up our heating system, our refrigeration in the cafeteria, and limited emergency lighting. It's not a full generator for the building. And again, it does work, but it's something that in the next few years we'll need to look at replacing.
It certainly works for the school purposes, because when we have a power outage, we don't lose our product for the food service program. Keeps the building warm enough so that we don't have pipes burst. And those are the types of things you worry about as a school department. As a town, if the town wants to use it beyond those capacities, just to those, so those major systems work in terms of a shelter or anything else, the town would want to consider a generator with a larger capacity and probably a little more reliable than one that was 40 years old, 50 years old.
50, I think.
And actually, it's probably important to note that there was conversation before this storm of the possibility of that being available for that need.
As a shelter.
As a shelter. I guess the only question I have on here is a couple of the items are listed as per school. So the masonry repairs, it says estimated at $350,000 per school, is that correct?
Yep,
Okay, should be listed then as separate line items?
I can do that.
Just because it's a lot of money, because it's, how many, we're talking about 1, 2, 3 schools, that's almost $1 million.
Yep.
So.
Sure. On my submission, I'll make sure that I
Yeah,
do
just
that.
so, and then we also have that as the roof repair replacement. For some reason, we have and center as one line, and then it says 200,000 each. So that's
Right.
actually 400,000.
Yep,
So I guess just to be clear,
sure.
when we go forward, that those numbers are times 3 or times 2. And yeah, then you noted that the feasibility study would be partially reimbursed.
Correct.
Depending on the rate of reimbursement that we would get. So the town cost of that might be half of that, or whatever our.
Yeah, approximately.
Whatever
yeah.
our reimbursement
Yep.
rate would be at the time. And we talked about the possibility of putting them in order of priority, but I don't think it makes that much sense, because I think it's a matter of when and how monies become available in the future. If there happens to be a state reimbursement program at a later date and time, then that might move something up, and so it really doesn't make any sense to me to put them as a priority list. I don't think. They're really just the capital needs of all of the buildings, and as monies became available, we would decide what got done first or second, or what have you, or if at some point something turns into an emergency, then that would move to the top of the list. In other words, if a roof became so bad that it had to be done, then that would move to the top of the list. But at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, there's really nothing that's jumping out as this is our number one priority. It's really just a matter of monies, when they're available and how they'd be available. So I don't know if anybody else has any conversation or thoughts to add to this. Peter, that you were asked to do this just recently,
Right.
I believe.
Right, so we just want to have it available for submission for the town meeting.
Yep. Do we need to make a motion on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to make a motion to submit a warrant article for the FY 2012 capital plan as proposed or amended,
As amended.
or as amended, yep.
So moved.
Mr. West, second by Mrs. Killian. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
New business and establishing of the next school committee meeting. The next meeting will be Tuesday, September 27th at 7 p.m. here at the town hall. And then seeing closed handout, what do we have for a handout here for the 2011-12 dates? Do we have another list of dates?
I ended up emailing them to everyone, so we can look at it.
Okay.
I think we got across them in June, but I'll send them out again.
Sure,
I'll
okay.
send you emails again.
Just, we're talking about the rest of
The rest of the year,
the
yes.
meetings, yep. And then approval of accounts, so motion to approve all accounts as presented or amended, or,
I just have 2 items.
oh, okay, before we do that?
Yeah.
All right.
After you approve the accounts.
Okay,
And
yep, so motion to approve all accounts as presented and amended. So move Mr. West, second by Mrs. Killian, all those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. And
Just before you go into executive session, not to return, under informational items, we have a memo here from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education of preliminary accountability status under NCLB for the Woodsdale and the Frollo School. We're going to spend a lot of time on this at a future school committee meeting like we do every year, giving you all of the data and on student achievement and all of the information across the district. Woodsdale in a level of corrective action, the Frollo Middle School is improvement year 2. And again, I talked to Russ about different designations that the state provides and our responsibility to always raise student achievement and always challenge and excite our students. And with the different labels and the different standards that the state provides, we also want to remember that as we look at our scores compared to other districts across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we are either above, at, or just below the average, depending on the grade and the subject being tested. And what that means for us in Massachusetts, the #1 state in the nation in terms of student achievement, is that we have our work cut out for us in terms of improving student achievement, but yet when our students go to colleges across the country, they're coming from the most competitive state in the nation. In fact, when Massachusetts on an international level is rated amongst other industrialized nations. We score, we far outscore the United States, and we score in the top 5, the top 3, depending on the test, on international scores if Massachusetts were graded as its own nation. So we will remain vigilant to improving student achievement, and that's, you know, a seriousness of purpose. That's what we do, and we will outline all of our achievement scores and our data and our information in a committee meeting that's coming up. And I always want to just use the appropriate frame of reference for the information that people are getting in terms of their school systems, so people know kids are getting a good education. And the last item I have is this summer, the Abington Avalanche girls softball team. The U10 team here from representing Abington won the 2011 Eastern National Championship. And so those, I want to say, I know the committee wants to congratulate those young ladies. I'd be willing to send them a letter of congratulations with the help of my friend Teresa Minahan, if that's something you wanted to do.
Yep.
And very excited about them playing for Abington High School one day. So
Yeah, so this is, I'm sorry, what age?
U10.
U10, which is, what ages are they?
those are generally 9,
9 through
10.
10?
Yeah, because to be
Yep.
at that level,
Right,
the younger girls don't. They play on the U9 team.
right. So where did they play? Where's it from?
Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania? That's unbelievable.
I think they went 45-0.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
if I have that right. So that's pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
So
They did some really good fundraising too.
Did they?
Yeah, just some creative stuff.
Very good. All right, for the purpose of discussion of collective bargaining proposals and updates, and not to return to public session, we will go into executive session by roll call, right? Do we do it by roll call?
Yep. Not to return to public session.
Not to return to public session. Ellen? Yes. Jim?
Yes.
And I say yes. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Oh, you can take that.
Chris, thank you for videotaping.
Is it possible to actually cast votes by text?
No.